These violent delights have violent ends. After days of structural and sporadic violence between Israelis and Palestinians, the respective authorities are now exchanging live fire. Episodes like these are routine, until they are not. Israelis and Palestinians frequently engage in low-level skirmishes.
Why is it only 5 takes? Because it's the talk, it's the fucking speech tree. Like they only have so many things they can do to like literally ask you to either stop looking at or outright deny what you see with your own 2 eyes. Like what do you want them to do? They just like they don't have a lot of fucking options. Like there's a dialogue wheel and they are exhausting the same fucking 5 arguments over and over again because there isn't really too much they can say.
But kinetic combat and intifadas are unusual. There hasn't been a major fight between the two in years until now.
Why do people say this isn't genocide? They will link Palestinian population growth charts to argue that it isn't. Yeah, that's really fun, dude. That's a really fun way to it's a really fun way that Nazis literally fucking denied ethnic cleansing as well. That's all I'm gonna say.
Hamas has launched salvos of rockets against civilian settlements in central and southern Israel, while Israel has targeted office buildings and militant leaders in airstrikes. The violence seems to be flaring. Israel has deployed combat troops along the Gaza border and is preparing for ground operations. Though the tit-for-tat reactions and counter-reactions seem emotionally driven, there is in fact a coldly calculated rationale in the fighting.
Again, same 5 dialogue lines, dude. Okay? Are the ads only for you as users? You prefer Israeli children's deaths? Why shoot missiles? Do you shoot someone in the head when someone curses you? Or the Kurdish humans when the Turks killed them? This is bullshit. If you come even close to any Palestinian road or home, it is certain death for any Jew. If rockets were pouring over your heads, how would you feel? Like, literally, just like, it's fucking awesome. I feel like, as far as like I don't know, paid or unpaid IDF propagandists or fucking trolls, being a Twitch streamer makes you incredibly well equipped to deal with it. Pointing out growing populations, literally how people deny Native American genocide. Yeah. It's great because I deal with it all day, every day. I hope you're getting paid for this shit, dude, and you're not just like a psychopathic, bloodthirsty Zionist doing this for free. You didn't answer my question. Do you think the IDF should do nothing? No, I think the IDF should do something if you consider pulling out their troops originally, like the original ask was from Hamas, from the Al-Aqsa Mosque, when they were beating the shit out of people and like gassing mosque goers. If you consider that to be doing nothing, then yes, pulling out is yeah, they should do nothing. Therefore, you could have avoided, and you should have continued to. You could have continued the ceasefire that was going on for years. Feel me? Please answer the question. Don't do these emotional baiting sarcasm stuff. So confused. What is emotional baiting sarcasm stuff? If you value the lives of fucking babies, who's killed more fucking babies? Who has more power? Who has more power to both fucking defend the lives of their own babies while simultaneously murdering babies inside of an open air prison? Like, you can't come to me with, unless you were asking like what should Israel do, because I already described to you what IDF should have done, but like, you can't come to me and act like you give a shit about human beings and their existence from a humanist point of view, while simultaneously advocating for death and destruction upon a certain group of human beings, unless you literally just don't think that they're humans and ethnic cleansing is justifiable. Israeli occupation forces, not defense. They have nothing to do to defend. They're only occupying and forcing people out. Yeah. So you're saying that Hamas would stop firing rockets if IDF stopped? First of all, 100% yes. Are you fucking stupid? Like, they might, some of the fucking people in Hamas want to fucking eviscerate all Jews and yada yada, and they're fucking anti-Semitic. But literally, yes, they're not so stupid as to not recognize the superior firepower that they go up against. So yes, it's literally yes. That's also precisely why the Hamas leadership said we are comfortable with the terms of a ceasefire, except, you know, the Israeli authorities need to agree to it. When the rest of the world leaders tried to reach out to Hamas and said, hey, would you like to do a ceasefire? This was how many days ago now? This was like one day after the original rocket barrage happened, and Israel denied the ceasefire and said, no, we are going to cease firing when the Gaza Strip is quiet. Not only that, but also a UN Security Commission tried to get together twice to start the ceasefire talks. Every world leader or every nation, with the exception of the United States, agreed to build a ceasefire agreement, and the United States has veto power and blocked it. Now, why would they have done that? Well, it's because they are in talks with Bibi Netanyahu's government, and Bibi Netanyahu's government said, no, we are going to do bombings until there is a total unending silence, and you're going to give us time to do so, and then we'll talk about a ceasefire maybe when we've wiped out enough Palestinians within the Gaza Strip. Feel me? You just shit on me after I sent a message that had a slight delay. Any chance to read my previous question from yesterday? Dude, what? I know. There's 35,000 people in here. What? Was it propaganda that I was taught that when British Mandate left and there was 2 nations, one for each population, that the early wars between them that led to the occupation today that were started by Arab nations? Dude, that is so fucking psychotic. Okay? Unless you literally think like all Arabs are here. I read it. You think that all Arabs are fucking the same, and that Palestinians deserve death with that framing. You understand that, right? Like, I'm sorry that was what you were taught in school, but yes, that is literal fucking propaganda. I'm just letting you know, because the underlying POV there is that the actions of Arab nations and surrounding regions justify the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians and the ongoing occupation of occupied territory in the West Bank, which is still a fucking human rights abuse that is ongoing. And every fucking NGO and every world leader, with the exception of obviously the notable United States, has declared it as such. But of course, that's anti-Semitism. Okay. Half these people that think you support Hamas, yeah, I know. If Israel took down the walls around Gaza and completely ignored all the violent Israeli violent anti-Israeli Arabs, we would get attacked constantly. Dude, you did this. This is the fucking same dumbass, by the way. Okay. All this is doing is the exact same fucking bullshit. The best way to stop terror is not by creating more terrorists by engaging in steady bombing campaigns. The best way to stop terror is by improving the material conditions of the people that you have backed into a fucking corner with no end in sight. Okay? We would get attacked constantly. So what? The best way to do so is by attacking, preemptively attacking constantly? Is that what it is? The end game is ethnic cleansing. The end game is displacement. The end game is genocide. It is what it is, but that's the fucking truth. Like, think about it this way. And by the way, this same rhetoric amongst reactionaries exists when it comes to immigration. The same rhetoric is just reactionary and fascist through and through. Okay? Completely. Part of the reason why they made sure that the Jews left Gaza was because this was going to happen. And we're going to continue a bombing campaign until there is, in the words of the IDF as recently as last week, until there is an unrelenting silence. Okay? When you bomb someone, you create more terrorists. When you destroy schools, when you ruin people's lives, when you murder their family members, innocent family members, and then say that your family member that got murdered was just a meat shield by Hamas. Sorry, sucks to suck. You were in the way of our bombs. All you're doing is creating more fucking terrorists. So if you want to end terrorism, then make peace. Why isn't the UN doing anything? What do you mean? What the fuck can the UN do? They got no power. Anyway, I hope that answered some of your questions. Like, what is should do? No, he didn't. He said, blah, blah, Israel pull troops, maybe, blah, blah. That's not what I said. You fucking idiot. Maybe killing blah, just wanted something direct is all I asked. Fair enough. That's not what I said, you fucking dumbass. And this is something that I've repeated time and time again. The conditions of the original rocket campaign that Hamas engaged in was set and not met by Israel. The demands that they made with the threat that the bombing would start at 6 p.m. That night when it started originally, was for the IDF to remove their military occupation or the military from the Al-Aqsa Mosque and surrounding region, and to stop the threatening of expulsion and displacement of the 6 families that live in the Sheikh Jarrah region. The IDF did not stop it and retaliated with a fuck you. That is like, and that ceasefire is not exactly great terms for the Palestinians regardless.
I'm your host Shirvan and welcome to Caspian Report. This episode is sponsored by Skillshare, an online learning community that helps develop your skills and Israelis' activity. Hostilities between Palestinians and Israelis are not new and have gone on for decades. The latest episode of violence escalated in mid-April 2021, coinciding with the start of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. Israel imposed a limit of 10,000 people gathering for prayers at the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, which is located in a compound that is referred to as a holy site in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam alike. Restrictions triggered nightly clashes between Israeli law enforcement and Palestinian protesters in the...
Now, these are restrictions beyond the regular restrictions that Palestinians are subjected to in their own fucking land that Israel is currently occupying, okay? Which is the occupied West Bank. Palestinians do not have freedom of travel, even in their own fucking neighborhoods, okay? They have it's an apartheid state basically everywhere. There are already severe limitations. They have separate roads for fucking Israeli cars and separate roads for Palestinian cars. There's checkpoints all over the fucking Palestinian. There's checkpoints all over the Palestinian roads. Okay, so those checkpoints oftentimes are used as like ways to fucking further repress Palestinians. Now, in Ramadan, Palestinians want to go to Al-Aqsa Mosque. Ramadan is a big, like, it's the holiest month for the international Muslim community. And there is a lot of like community prayer that you engage in on Fridays. You go and you pray at the mosque, and everyone wants to go to the Al-Aqsa Mosque to pray together, specifically on the night that is like the last 2 nights of the month of Ramadan. So what the Israeli authorities started doing is putting checkpoints that would not allow Muslims to go and pray at Al-Aqsa Mosque. This is really disrespectful. And as I've talked about before, whenever in the past, like Israel or the Israeli authorities have taken action against Al-Aqsa, like putting metal detectors around Al-Aqsa, the Palestinian community rises up, okay? Because they see it as like literally a bridge too fucking far, okay? The Israeli authorities do respond to said protests from the Muslim community, including the removal of the metal detectors in the past that they had placed in Al-Aqsa. So,
streets of Jerusalem. At the same time, a Jewish settler group turned to the Israeli Supreme Court with claims for land and property in a predominantly Palestinian neighborhood in East Jerusalem. Palestinian families were at risk of eviction. Although both incidents triggered the latest hostilities, Palestinians are frustrated by setbacks to their aspirations for an independent state in recent years, including
Jewish people who were here before 48 created underground weapon factories and settlements they took so that they can take over Israel. Meantime, the Arabs said nothing. What? I don't know.
Including Washington's recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital. The tipping point, however, occurred on May 8th, during the holiest day of Ramadan, as tens of thousands of Palestinians gathered at the Al-Aqsa Mosque in defiance of the restrictions. Israeli police blocked Palestinians from entering the mosque and then used tear gas.
Are there restrictions for COVID, or is that their excuse, and do restrictions specifically target them? Motherfucker, if you think the IDF or Israelis in general give a single fuck about preventing COVID from spreading in Palestinian communities, you think they do a little bit more to give fucking Palestinians actually vaccines when they vaccinated the entirety of the Israeli population, except they didn't. And at the time I covered it, it's called medical apartheid. This was like a couple months back, where Israel was being promoted by the Western media as like this wonderful progressive nation that was able to vaccinate every single person so quickly. And yet they literally stopped other countries from even giving vaccines to Palestinian areas. And they themselves did not give any fucking additional vaccines that they had to Palestinians for the longest fucking time.
Gas and stun grenades inside the holy building. That was a bad call. In retaliation, Hamas fired hundreds of rockets on central and southern Israel. It was like pouring fuel on fire. Understandably, Israel retaliated by carrying out airstrikes in Gaza.
As I also explained, he's missing out key details in this like very fucking basic report, but it's not just that. The mosque was occupied. They were fucking gassing people who were praying at the mosque. And then also on top of that, they had originally shut out people from even going to the mosque. Okay. So those are two key issues. And then that's when Hamas, in the final night of like gearing up, and Israel was doing this to gear up for Jerusalem Day, which is an ultra-right, ultra-fucking reactionary, far-right, psychopathic holiday that is a celebration of occupying the city of Jerusalem, okay, where these far-right, young, oftentimes like super fucking orthodox Israelis will like roam the streets on Flag Day and literally beat the shit out of fucking Palestinians. So they were gearing up for this, which is part of the reason why this retaliation is suspected to have happened by the IDF. But also Hamas said that this should stop, or else, including the forcible evictions, the expulsion of the 6 families in Sheikh Jarrah need to stop, or else. And Israel was like, yeah, fuck off.
the number of civilian casualties mounted in the dozens. Hamas then launched even more rockets, and Israel returned the favor with even more violence. Israelis and Palestinians engage in low-level clashes quite frequently, but at this point there are more questions than answers. Is Hamas running low on munitions? And can they improve the accuracy of their weapons? Can Israel continue to intercept them? Were there any missiles fired from Lebanon or Syria? Or how will the Arab nations respond? With the way things are going, the state of affairs will regress. That much is unavoidable. The question now is, according to
this is fucking ridiculous.
What rationale will they regress? From the perspective of Hamas, it is the last organized territorial resistance to Israel. The space they control, the Gaza Strip, sits between Israel and the Mediterranean Sea. It is a place that is densely populated and exceedingly impoverished. Shortage of basic necessities is common, including water, electricity, and medicine. Gaza relies almost entirely on Israel for its supplies. Moreover, there is a sizable Israeli buffer zone within Gaza, which renders much of the land inaccessible. Suffice to say, in all aspects of social life, the Palestinians in Gaza have zero prospects. Resentment and hostility is often considered a medium of escape. Now, what's important to note is that while the militant Hamas governs over the Gaza Strip, the moderate Fatah rules over the West Bank, where East Jerusalem is located. The two groups are rivals. They even fought a conflict that cost the lives of hundreds. Fatah lost the political majority in the 2006 election and then physically lost Gaza to Hamas the year after. However,
bro, what is your explanation for Israel taking this much time to ethnically cleanse Palestine? Because they're not just ethnically trying to cleanse Palestine, they're trying to ethnically cleanse Palestine in a way that is like understandable and won't draw like complete ire from international authorities. Okay? Why do one big fucking bombing campaign when you can slowly but surely cripple their resources, completely command their economy, stop them from fucking existing, bomb all of their infrastructure, and then claim that it's fucking Hamas targets like their schools, banks, hospitals, and media outlets? That's the reason. And also, I have to once again repeat this, but that is the same exact argument that Nazis used against Jews. How can you claim that this is ethnic cleansing? I mean, come on, there's Jews that still exist. That's fucking ridiculous that this is the same argument now applied by the IDF and by ultra-Zionists that think that this is like a reasonable fucking own. Okay? You get that, right? You understand it, right? It's, you know.
Fatah retained control over the West Bank, and the two have been at odds since. But as recently as January 2021, Hamas and Fatah had agreed to hold elections at an unspecified date. So when Hamas fired rockets on Israel, it was a political ploy to rank themselves as the legitimate body of the Palestinians, with the
Read sectarian conflict and mandatory Palestine. One of your arguments is basically Jews started, so retaliation is justified. So first of all, I'm not saying the Jews started it, you fucking idiot. I'm saying Israel started it, okay? So let's separate the two really quick. There are plenty of Jewish people all around the world and even in Israel that are against this horrific reality of the occupation. Secondly, how far back do you want to go? Motherfucker, half the time this argument literally goes back to the Romans. Like, you're fucking insane, dude. Half the time whenever we have this conversation, we go back to like who started it. And then when we move beyond the point of like mass Jewish migration into the region from international communities led by led by England, the British Kingdom, when we move beyond that point, you literally go back 2,000 years, dude. That's a ridiculous fucking claim. But even if we were to legitimize that claim, you can't do it by murdering and displacing Palestinians. That is not a reasonable thing to do.
The aim being to gain control over the West Bank via the upcoming elections. For its part, the government of Israel also has elections in mind. Prime Minister Netanyahu is in a political...
Yeah, the video is wrong. They postponed the elections because Israel wouldn't guarantee the right for East Jerusalem Arabs to vote. That was one reason. Hamas said they are ready to bomb Tel Aviv for 6 or 8 months. Okay, bro. Thank you, tryhard Q8. I'm sure they have that capability.
Pickle. He has been unable to form a coalition government, and the deadline will expire within a month. If he is unable to form...
Your stream is blacklisted in Jordan. I gotta use a VPN to see it. Wait, why the fuck? Is that for real? Someone send me a fucking clip of it, or like a photo of this. Yeah, a couple people kept saying that. No, I'm from Jordan. It's not. Someone said earlier the same in UAE.
A coalition...
The fact that you think this is because of Jewish people is bad. Motherfucker, I literally just... Bro, dude, people are so dumb. Why are you putting words in my mouth? Is it because the actual words that I am speaking are not as easy to dismantle and attack? So you must find a different way to attack the argument? Like, it hasn't been 2 minutes since I said this. That it's not Jewish people, it's Israel.
Israel will see its 5th general election since 2019. This time, however, after 12 years of power, it could cost Netanyahu his office. So the senior partner of the Israeli government has an interest in galvanizing the public through political rhetoric and kinetic exchange. Beyond elections, and in spite of the high-running emotions, Hamas and Israel have different but rational objectives. Hamas wants to replace Fatah and negotiate directly with Israel. To do so, Hamas needs to make a lot of noise. It doesn't have a conventional military to engage Israeli troops, but it does have facilities to store short-range rockets capable of striking around...
Bro, that shit is so... Okay, dude. That's crazy. Yeah, dude. Hamas wants to be the singular source of Palestinian power. I mean, there is truth to that, of course. But to do so, they just got to keep bombing Israel is so dumb. Like, that's ridiculous, dude. So what? Like, Hamas's expectation is that Israel is just going to be like, all right, we're going to deal with the people that we are using as a justification to fucking murder as many Palestinians as possible. Sure. Why are they doing that? Oh, because they're dumb, dude.
Of Gaza. Hamas also has some medium-range missiles that are capable of reaching Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, but their stockpile is low in number. Now, the know-how to produce these weapons was provided by Iran. As the Arab nations abandoned the Palestinian cause in recent years, the Iranians have stepped up to fill the void. Iran also controls large sums of missiles and rockets in Syria and Lebanon, both of which form the Iranian arc of influence into the Mediterranean. Israel has been engaging the Iranian proxy groups in Syria for a while, but it has not entered the Lebanese arena.
Okay, first and foremost, Israel literally currently also occupies another territory that does not belong to them, Golan Heights. Their justification for this, which is in Syria, and their justification for this is because Golan Heights is being used to attack Israel. So they've already moved beyond like whatever borders, whatever agreement gave them, and have already entered Syria as well. Who the fuck said this was a good video, by the way? This is madness, dude. I know I said
The
light news, but
capabilities of the Lebanese Hezbollah are deemed too costly to engage. This is not to say that Hamas is a proxy of Iran, it certainly is not, but the developments that are taking place across the Israeli landscape are part of the proxy conflict with Iran. The know-how to produce missiles and rockets has changed the playing field in Gaza. Today, Israel's objectives in Gaza are twofold. It needs to prevent a prolonged missile campaign into the Israeli coastal plain, which runs along the Mediterranean coast into the Judean mountains, anchoring by the cities of Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and Haifa. This triangle-like space is the epicenter of Israel's political, economic, and cultural life. Hostile raids cannot be tolerated here. It strikes at the heart of Israel. The high-tech air defense systems that Israel employs were specifically designed to defend this space.
bro, this video sucks ass, dude.
But the tools of war cannot sustain against a prolonged missile campaign. So in addition to having top-notch weapons, some sort of strategic policy is necessary. The Israeli answer to this is disproportionate military actions, which is ultimately meant as a deterrent to fend off attacks in its heartland. However, the threat to Israel's heartland comes not only from the air, but also from guerrilla attacks on...
Okay, dude. Dude, this is like... I mean, this is just like a more, I guess, like, he's not using, like, spicy language to just be like, Palestinians are fucking dogs that deserve to die, but still using, like, conventional Israeli propaganda, hook, line, and sinker to, like, create a nation state that has, like, a justifiable reason for doing the ethnic cleansing that it's doing and the displacements that it's engaging in by saying, like, oh, well, they're just surrounded by fucking villains all around the world, like, they're just surrounded by enemies all over, and that's precisely why they have to be the way that they are. So how the fuck is this like this is completely, and I mean completely fucking avoiding the realities of asymmetrical warfare, or rather a massacre. Like making it seem straight up like Hamas actually has any sort of fucking firepower to legitimately threaten Israel. Like completely overlooking the realities of the occupation that are causes that Palestinians are causes for Palestinians to fucking act out in the way that they do, or even the way that like Hamas reacts and behaves, even though Palestinians are basically fucking trapped between Fatah, which they think is feckless and too supportive of the Israeli government at times even, or corrupt ultimately, and they're true to say so, or Hamas, which is an Islamist fundamentalist a group of individuals which Israel uses their existence to justify their ethnic cleansing campaign. It's pathetic. This video it's terrible. We'll watch that after.
On the ground. This then explains why...
It is a geopolitical analysis. Smile, my man. Yes, the geopolitical analysis is fucking dog shit if it doesn't feature the actual factors and completely fucking avoids talking about the superior firepower that one side has over the other. That's so idiotic. Oh, nah, dude. Oh, nah, dude, it's not political. Like, this is... You're just as stupid as the fucking morons who think that, like, Call of Duty is not political. And you don't recognize the propagandist elements in this video.
Why Israel repeatedly attacks Hamas's positions as a means to disrupt its military capabilities. Hamas, meanwhile, must find ways to survive. It needs to lift the Israeli and Egyptian blockade, meaning some sort of accommodation with Israel is necessary. And the only way to get the Israelis to the negotiating table is by posing a significant danger and imposing an agreement of sorts. hence the missiles in Gaza. Now, that said, while the missiles certainly give Hamas leverage, it also creates a conundrum for Gaza. The Israelis do not want to talk to Hamas, compromise with Hamas by now table to the negotiating table is by posing a significant danger and imposing an agreement of sorts. Hence, the missile.
Motherfucker, he literally talked about the disproportionate power Israel has. Stop being a dumbass. He talked about the disproportionate power Israel has, and then literally said that like Israel is threatened by actions of the Lebanese or actions of the Jordanian military capabilities. And then he fucking tried to compare it like Hamas as like a way to strike fear at the heart of Israel. When I'm sorry, all of that shit is it's bullshit. Like, if you consider Hamas's firepower to be a reason for Israelis to be genuinely fearful, okay, then one way to avoid that is by at least meeting the reasonable demands that Hamas will make from time to time, specifically when talking about, for example, the previous demands that Hamas had made, especially in the framework of a long-standing ceasefire agreement that both sides were agreeing to, / that ceasefire agreement was still dog shit for the Palestinians overall, because that ceasefire agreement still worked alongside the ongoing occupation in the West Bank and also subjecting Palestinians into, again, endless amounts of fucking cruelty throughout that ceasefire agreement, okay?
In Gaza. Now, that said, while the missiles certainly give Hamas.
Caspian literally said the defense system cannot sustain a prolonged attack. That's the fucking point. It can. That seems apologist or just uninformed.
Leverage. Yeah. It also creates a conundrum for Gaza. The Israelis do not want to talk to Hamas. Compromise with Hamas by granting Gaza an autonomous status would encourage it to acquire and produce even more missiles, thus bringing the Israeli heartland under fundamental risk. In fact, the Israelis would rather prefer to outright occupy Gaza and disperse its citizens, which is now being considered by the Israeli leadership. It is up to the Israelis to decide whether the physical occupation of Gaza is worth the bad press. However, even with...
Bro, look at that, dude. Oh, God, there is... Jesus Christ, dude. Disperse its citizens. Where are they dispersing them? These are human beings, dog.
With Israel's military might, moving into Gaza is a military challenge. Gaza is small, but it's a densely packed urban environment. Hostile forces familiar with the area can move about swiftly.
Hostile forces familiar with the area can move about swiftly. This motherfucker is literally talking about boots on the ground occupation of Gaza. Like, there is nothing more legitimizing for the existence of Hamas than endless bombing campaigns and also like boots on the ground military warfare. Like, if you want to just straight up make Hamas like the permanent authority, which I believe like some Israelis, the far right Israelis would absolutely love to do so they can literally continue their fucking bloodshed. It's an academic take. Please understand. Yeah, dude, real fucking academic. I can just say it's an academic take if I'm approaching it when there is injustice occurring and you approach it on a both sides standpoint. You are not just, you can't shield yourself by saying I'm just simply being academic, because there is still a purpose behind your words, and that purpose is technically siding with the side that is doing the lion's share of the cruelty. Okay? Academic.
Hiding, engaging, withdrawing, and deploying would be relatively easy for Hamas. Plus, it is believed that Hamas possesses sophisticated anti-tank weapons, putting Israeli armor and infantry at risk. All the while, Hamas may launch.
So, again, it's like, why wouldn't they have fucking if Hamas is the only resistance that Palestinian people feel like they're trapped with, because that's the only resistance that exists to an occupying regime, and the occupying regime keeps killing you, then Hamas is basically operating as the military of the Palestinians. In which case, if you fucking invade the territory with tanks and shit, yeah, no shit, they're gonna fucking use anti-tank weapons. Why the fuck would I allow someone with guns to come into my home and fucking murder my family? Obviously, if I have resources to do so, I'm going to push back and I'm going to fight back. This is so fucking stupid.
A prolonged missile campaign at Israeli cities. Israel would.
Like, this argument only holds, he's not making an argument, but like, people that look at this and go, yeah, actually, both sides, yeah, you're right. It only works if you literally hold on to the belief that, like, Palestinians do not have a right to defend themselves. They do not have a right to self-defense, which is conveniently the American policy, or the American foreign policy position, okay? Which is that, of course, states have a right to defend themselves with weapons. That's literally that's a function of the state, okay? But Palestine is conveniently not a state. It is occupied territory, which Israel has sovereignty over, which, by the way, technically would be illegal, okay? Because the entire world, specifically the United States, is doing this thing where they conveniently operate on both sides of an argument, where they say, like, well, Palestine has their own territories, two-state solution, while simultaneously saying, well, it's not really a state, so they can't fucking defend themselves.
Still win the fight, but the cost would be high. Urban warfare would result in casualties that the Israelis cannot afford, which may then spell the political end of the ruling government. The Israeli leadership is now threatening to destroy the hierarchy of Hamas and the reality of Gaza. To do so would require occupation. Both sides have already crossed each other's red lines, and as the conflict evolves, there are two things to watch for: Hamas's missiles targeting the Israeli heartland and the Israeli army mobilizing into Gaza. Even if the political leadership of Hamas and Israel had a change of heart, public frustration on both sides makes it difficult for the political leaders to appease their angry constituents and de-escalate the situation.
I mean, dude, one side literally is fucking fighting for their lives. That's crazy. I'm sorry, dude. Making it seem like it's like a simple political calculation by leadership or the people there literally robs Palestinians of their humanity, okay? It's a political calculation on Israel's side, and the reason for why it's a political calculation on Israel's side is because they hold all the cards. They hold all the fucking power, dog. But one side is literally fighting for their lives. It's crazy to me. Holy fucking shit.
There are so many triggers to unrest that more violence is inevitable. By and large, though, violence spawns violence, but it also creates opportunities to do things differently, regardless of whether that means...
Yeah, if this guy can keep that same energy, why doesn't he fucking both sides slavery and the Holocaust? I want to see the academic take on the fucking Holocaust if he's got that same energy. I wonder if he could keep that up. No, of course not, because that would be unconscionable. That would be insane. Maybe he'll do academic take on Holocaust, right? Would you say that? Would you say that it's just simply academic take? No, you wouldn't.
Some peaceful resolution or decisive military action, one can never let a good crisis go to waste. I've been your host Shirvan from Caspian Report. If you approve of our work, please leave a like.
Hey, I'm from Iran. I know what is happening. Israel, not problem. You sit down in US and talking about us and give Palestine, open your eyes. You, my motherfuck country, give money to Hamas. America, please bomb us. MEK, very good. I am Iranian. I live in Iran. I hate Iran. America, please glass my country. Okay, I was waiting for the fucking MEK bots to show up, dude. Nice. Nice. Bro, please, glass, bro. Listen, we are very homophobic. We deserve to die, bro. Please, bro. Academic, bro. Please, bro. We be academic, bro. Both sides, bro. Hey. Fuck Iran, bro. Fuck Palestine, bro.
This people, the Palestinian people, prefer to die standing than to lose its case. We achieved proving that the king is wrong. We achieved proving that this nation is going to continue fighting till victory. We achieved that our people could never be defeated. We achieved teaching every single person in this world that we are a small, brave nation who are going to fight to the last drop of blood to put justice for ourselves after the world failed in giving it to us. This is what we achieved.
It does seem that the war, the civil war, has been quite fruitless.
It's not a civil war. It's a people defending themselves against a fascist government, which you are defending because just King Hussein has an Arab passport. It's not a civil war.
Well, the conflict...
It's not a conflict. It's a liberation movement fighting for justice.
Well, whatever it might be best called...
It's not whatever, because this is where the problems start. Because this is what makes you answer all your questions, ask you all your questions. This is exactly where the problems start. This is a people who is discriminated, is fighting for his rights. This is the story. If you will say it's a civil war, then your questions will be justified. If you will say it's a conflict, then of course it's a surprise to know what's happening.
No, I don't like that. Can we just call it something different that makes my position more valid, please? That's not good. If you continue to call this a struggle for liberation for your peoples, then it's going to make me look bad. So I think we're just going to go with the other thing.
Why won't your organization engage in peace talks with the Israelis?
You don't mean exactly peace talks. You mean capitulation, surrendering.
Why not just talk?
Talk to whom?
talk to the Israeli leaders?
That's kind of conversation between the sword and the neck, you mean?
I mean, this dude literally got assassinated. Palestinian novelist and freedom fighter Ghassan Kanafani, who was later murdered by Israel, brilliantly and movingly explains the Palestinian liberation struggle's objectives to a deliberately obtuse Western journalist. Yeah, he had a big Marx, Lenin, Ho Chi Minh, and Che. This is what the Palestinian liberation movement consisted of in the 60s and 70s before Israel murdered all their leaders and promoted Islamist movements like Hamas because they were better boogeymen. Not only did they also promote and spawn Hamas, they actively funded Hamas. Israeli generals literally came out and admitted to such for the record. So if you don't know that, but their specific purpose was to, again, provide a counterweight to leftist, revolutionary, Marxist liberation groups. This is basically exactly what the CIA has done time and time again, and it continues to do so. You can say squirrel on Twitter, credible news source, but like this is just a summarization of literally every single fucking thing I have talked about time and time again in like the nearly 8 hours of coverage I afford to this issue for the past fucking week. Like, it's a coping mechanism. It's a funny little coping mechanism to like just say like, oh yeah, it's fucking bullshit, whatever. But I mean, you can go read the Wall Street Journal article. You can hear the testimonials from Israeli generals. There's an Intercept article that does a pretty good job of fucking summarizing that as well. Again, the reason why Israel promoted these Islamist groups is because they knew it was easier to demonize them in the West. Given the long-standing systemic Islamophobic racism there, the name Hamas conjures up images of pure evil. Nevertheless, Norman is right. Norman Finkelstein here explains why Palestinians have both a moral and legal right to defend themselves against occupation and apartheid imposed on them by Israel. Remember this when you hear pro-Israel creeps and leftists whining about rockets.
Hamas has the right to fire those rockets, in my opinion. I understand what Amnesty International says. They're unguided rockets, therefore they are indiscriminate, and therefore they're illegal. I don't want to get into the technicalities there. If you want me to get into the technicalities, I can. In my opinion, they have the right to fire those rockets.
Well, just quickly, I know in your book you make the point. You know, the ability of the rocket to be precisely targeted is a relative concept. So if you're comparing it to these highly sophisticated weapons that the Americans and the Israelis have, yeah, you can't target them that way. But that, as you make the point in the book, that means only rich countries are going to be.
I remember that chatter that tried to do the Twitter thing while you were looking at the author of an article's Twitter where they put more information.
Fire rockets.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, I fucking forgot again. It's top of the hour. It's time for a 6-second ad break. Okay, if you want to fucking avoid those, you already know. You can subscribe for free with the Twitch Prime. Okay, here you go.
Exactly. But there's a second point. What you said, exactly. In effect, it means poor people have no right to resist foreign invasions and foreign assaults. When Palestinians who are under a merciless, inhuman, immoral, and illegal siege for 7 years, when 95% of the drinking water is not fit for human consumption, when nobody in the world cares, when they keep signing agreements at the end of each of these rounds, which says the blockade is going to be lifted, including the agreement that was signed after Protective Edge, the blockade would be lifted. The blockade is never lifted. The illegal, immoral, and inhuman siege continues. When parents have to poison their children each day by giving them water which they know is not fit for human consumption, then you're telling me that Palestinians can't fire symbolic symbols of resistance, notional symbols of resistance, namely these enhanced fireworks, which are actually more a message to the world than they are inflicting damage on Israelis. It's SOS, help us. No, they have that right. For me, it's a little bit unclear how you can claim that movements for self-determination have the right to use armed force to end their, to win their right of self-determination.
Basically, fireworks, in air quotes, they literally are modified fireworks. You understand that? You can technically make the argument that like all rockets are technically basically fireworks, except it's laughable because Israel themselves routinely say, well, Hamas's own rockets are falling on their own people, showcasing how fucking man-made and bathtub-made these goddamn fucking rockets are. Unless you think they're fucking idiots that are like literally pointing it at themselves, which you probably do because you don't think they're fucking human beings.
Determination, that's international law. But then tell me every time they use a weapon, the weapon is illegal. They're not allowed to use it. That doesn't make much sense to me.
We're trying to spread the truth to the people. The truth is always revolutionary, which is what Lenin wrote. Excellent video on Ghassan Qanafi's life and works. Anyway. What is this? Protective Edge? Gaza crisis toll of operations in Gaza. Okay, yeah. I know. We always do. Kind of sounds like you don't want Israel to have the Iron Dome. It's a fucking idiotic notion. And I have said the exact opposite time and time again. But no, go ahead. Assume things that are literally the opposite of what I say. Just, you know, why do you listen? If you're going to make shit up about what my point of view is, why do you even fucking listen? Like, you don't have to watch. You could just like make shit up on your own, you know? Why would I advocate against a literal defensive measure? Like, why would I advocate against something that prevents more lives from being lost. When my advocacy around the Israel-Palestine situation revolves around de-escalation and avoiding loss of life, does the U.S. get involved with these issues such as this? No, they have already. They've been involved for a very long time. And they're fully in support of what Israel does. Anyway. Okay. I'm done. We're gonna move on to some lighter stuff now, okay? I have to cook too. I'm fucking dying right now. I don't know why. I said I was gonna do light news today, and fucking that was a lie, okay? I lied to you. And I'm sorry. So, yeah, we got 90 Day coming up too. We can watch 90 Day as well. This is probably a good one. Thank you, Griffin. But in a little bit. Before I do that, I'm gonna do fucking... I mean, I guess we could start off with 90 Day, but this is such a hard fucking change. Dude, I have massive headache. I'm so tired. Legend of Korra critique is not light. It is light. And you deserve to fucking see it if you're like a Legend of Korra simp.
By the Daily Peanut. Hey, what up, Wisecrack? Chris here, and today we're talking about the Legend of Korra. Now,
I can't stop. This dude uses his hands so aggro all the time, dude.
There's some pretty mixed opinions on this show. It tried hard.
No, it's not the vaccine that got me, chat. It's fucking drinking. It's alcohol. The vaccine thing already, it's gone. The vaccine is fucking completely fine now. I already like I'm no longer feeling the negative consequences.
Hard to live up to the beloved Avatar series and was often successful. It had excellent characters, inventive action sequences, and a truly moving finale. But most would probably agree that it never quite matched its predecessor, and the reason lies in its struggle to do what avatars must do: find balance. We'll explain how in this Wisecrack edition on The Legend of Korra, what went wrong. Spoilers ahead for Avatar: The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra.
I'm the Avatar! You gotta deal with it!
And before we continue, I want to give a quick shout out to this video's sponsor, The Daily Peanut. The Daily Peanut is a fast and fun way to learn about what is going on around the world by delivering you the hottest news in equal parts humor and substance. Let's face it, so many of us turn to Twitter to read the headlines, but don't really take the time to learn more about what's going on. And on top of that, half of the headlines feel like something that was written to gain attention, but isn't exactly news. With the Daily Peanut, you'll have everything delivered to your inbox each morning, so you can stay informed about news that matters. Join over 250,000 readers and get educated and entertained. Sign up for free using the link in the description. Now, back to the show. Rather than starting in the original Avatar's era, Korra shoots us 70 years into an almost unrecognizable future. We pick up in Republic City, a thriving multicultural metropolis founded by Aang. Most who practice the ancient art of bending have now fully integrated their talents into this industrialized world. A talented few compete in the glitzy world of pro-bending, while others just use their skills for crime. It's a much more complicated world than the one Aang knew. And as Korra quickly finds, the Avatar can no longer just come crashing in to save the day. On its face, this seems pretty interesting. It complicates the world of the original show, making space to also complicate its central theme. And what was that theme? Balance. As you may remember, when the Fire Lord's aggression knocked things out of whack, Aang's mission was to tilt the scales back towards equanimity between the kingdoms. But unlike that relatively dualistic conflict, Korra's world is full of competing interests, fraught relationships, festering grievances, and faulty political mechanisms, all of which she will need to take into account to perform her role as Avatar.
Your job isn't to fix the daily problems of every person in Republic City. Your responsibility is to bring balance to the entire world. And that means no matter what you do,